I live in a small town in rural Arkansas. There wasn't much to do most of the time. However, I enjoyed hunting a lot. I wasn't the most skilled hunter. I just really liked it as an adventurous thing to do. Whenever I did get lucky, I would have a lot of meat stocked in the freezer for months. I had a few guns, but my favorite was my bolt action rifle. I typically hunt bucks and hogs mostly. Summer was my favorite hunting period, just for feral hogs. They are a very invasive species, and so it was open season most times for them. This summer, I was going to be taking my buddy Joe along with me. Joe was more of an indoor guy, not your typical hunting guy. He would go out hunting maybe once in 6 months, and he went fishing occasionally. I had met him from a call center job that I worked a few years ago, and we stayed good friends after that. On our first day of hunting during the summer, I drove and picked up Joe from his place. We had all the hunting gear we needed, and we were ready to go hunt some hogs. Our destination was an area that was known to have wild hogs roaming around. We didn't have high expectations, but when hunting, you could get a few animals or nothing at all. When we got there, it was about 4:30 p.m., and we set up a little camp and watched out for hogs that might come across. At about 7:30 p.m., we still didn't see anything, and it was getting dark. I felt a bit disappointed even though I had set my expectations pretty low. I wanted Joe to at least have a nice time, but I brought him out here just to sit for 3 hours doing nothing. I was definitely disappointed. We decided to call it a night and hoped for a better day tomorrow. I dropped Joe back home. On the way back to my place, I couldn't help but think, why didn't I see any hog at all? Not even a sign. However, I was hopeful for tomorrow. The next morning, I was up very early, picked up Joe, and promised we would at least see something today. He smiled and said, "Let's just see how it goes." We set up camp in a slightly different area this time, and we started waiting. After waiting for 2 hours and still nothing, I told Joe we should move around on foot and go see what we could find. We started walking through the area. It was a wooded terrain with bushes and some trees. It was about 6:30 p.m. right now, and the sun was setting already. There was a lot of bugs flying around, branches and leaves almost hitting our faces whenever we moved forward. We looked for signs of hogs as we moved deeper and deeper. I was starting to lose hope again. It was 7:15 p.m. and still nothing. I was about to tell Joe we should head back right before he shouted, "Look!" I turned and it was a small drop of blood. There was a trail of blood heading deep into the bushes. I didn't know exactly what to think because we didn't shoot anything today. We followed it, and as we went on, the blood got more. I started to feel a bit worried and concerned what we would find. Finally, we got to what we had been following, and we were both speechless and just stared for 2 minutes. It was a dead hog that seemed to have been attacked violently. It had horrific wounds that came from sharp claws, teeth marks all over, and broken bones. We both did not know what had done this. Joe said it would be a good idea if we went back home, and I agreed with him. On my way back home to drop him off, we came to the conclusion that it was probably a bear that did that to the hog. It was a very awkward conversation because we both knew it was not a bear, but we didn't want to scare each other or sound ridiculous. I didn't go hunting for about a month after that, and whenever I would call or meet Joe, we would just kind of pretend and not bring up anything about hunting. We were both just avoiding the topic as a whole. One day, my curiosity got the best of me and I decided to ask Joe to go hunting with me again. He refused immediately and admitted he was spooked out the day we saw the dead hog. I pushed more and told him it was probably a wild animal that got the hog, and that's how Mother Nature is. Joe was very adamant on not going, and so I just got my things ready and drove to his place regardless to convince him. I was able to get him to go with me, under the condition that we would stay only for 4 hours. When we got there, I led us deep into the bushes. I had lied to Joe that this was about hunting. Really, I wanted to know exactly what had ripped that hog into pieces, and I needed him to accompany me. We got towards where the dead hog was, but I couldn't find the bones or any leftovers. It was already dark at this time, so I wasn't sure if this was the right place. I asked Joe if this was where we found the dead hog, but he did not respond. I was looking on the floor and called Joe again, but he did not respond. I turned around and Joe was not there. My heart sunk in my chest. I looked around and he was nowhere in sight. I started to feel really scared. Maybe Joe just walked a bit slower and he was somewhere behind. I walked backwards towards where we came from, but I could not find him. I screamed his name, still no response. If he was close, he would have heard me. At this moment, I started feeling very guilty. Joe never wanted to come here tonight, but I lied so I could find whatever ripped the hog. Few moments later, I saw Joe's phone on the ground. It was covered in blood. I'm completely terrified because I know something bad has happened. I could not continue to deceive myself. Just like the hog, there was a blood trail which I had no other choice but to follow. My heart pounded as I took each step forward, awaiting the inevitable sight that I might see. As I got closer, I saw my friend Joe, laying there and bleeding out. He was still alive but could barely speak. Being terrified was an understatement. As I tried to help him, I heard a few rattles in the bushes in front of me. I pointed my flashlight towards the direction. For a few seconds, I saw a creature. I could not believe what I was looking at. This was clearly not a man or a wild animal. I turned around to run, and I heard Joe manage to say the words, "Help me." I took off running and crying out loud. I had to save myself and leave Joe there. I knew he was not going to make it, and it was all my fault. I got out of the woods and called 911. It took a little while before they came, and I explained the situation to them. A few hours later, Joe's body was recovered. It was ruled that he got attacked by a bear, and I was taken in for questioning. When I was asked about going back there after we had seen the first hog, I lied that Joe was also interested in going back there to hunt. I did not want anyone to know I dragged my friend out there to die. However, I did. I forced him to go with me that day, and I lied on him after he was dead. I live with this pain every single day.